March 17th, 1984, 3:30 a.m. The security cameras at the Golden Palace Casino in Las Vegas capture 5 figures in dealer uniforms entering the employee break room through the heavy metal door. Isabella Rodriguez adjusts her blackjack vest. Marcus Thompson loosens his poker dealer's bow tie. Patricia Kim carries her roulette stick. Vincent O'Brien clutches a craps stick. Sarah Mitchell holds her baccarat shoe. The timestamp burns into the screen. 3 hours 30 minutes and 47 seconds. This is the last confirmed sighting of 5 casino dealers who had just uncovered one of the largest money laundering operations in Nevada history. 39 years later, on November 8, 2023, demolition security guard Frank Martinez stands in the abandoned casino's basement, holding dust-covered recording equipment in his trembling hands. His body camera records his shocked voice. "Holy shit. These tapes, they prove everything. These dealers were murdered because they found out the Golden Palace was washing money for international crime syndicates, and I'm holding their evidence. They hid it before they died." The Golden Palace Casino was Vegas royalty in 1984, situated just off the Strip. It catered to high rollers who wanted discretion with their millions. The marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and private VIP rooms promised exclusivity. And 5 graveyard shift dealers were about to pay with their lives for discovering it. Isabella Rodriguez, 28, was the best blackjack dealer on the floor. Born in El Paso, she'd worked her way up from cocktail waitress to dealer in just 3 years. Sharp-eyed and quick with numbers, she could calculate odds faster than most computers. She'd noticed something wrong first. Nista high rollers at her table were making maximum bets, but showing no emotion whether they won or lost. Real gamblers got excited or angry. These players were mechanical, like they were just moving money, not gambling it. Marcus Thompson, 35, dealt poker in the high-stakes room. A former accountant who'd moved to Vegas after his firm collapsed, he understood money flow better than cards. His background in forensic accounting made him invaluable to the casino for spotting cheaters. But in February 1984, Marcus noticed patterns that weren't cheating. They were systematic money transfers, disguised as poker losses. Players would lose specific amounts to other specific players, amounts that when tallied always equaled round numbers divisible by $100,000. Patricia Kim, 31, ran the roulette wheels in the VIP section. MIT dropout turned dealer. She understood probability at a quantum level. She'd written her thesis on random number generation before leaving academia for the casino floor. Patricia discovered that certain wheels were being manipulated, not to cheat players, but to ensure specific outcomes for specific bets. Someone was guaranteeing wins and losses to move money predictably. Vincent O'Brien, 42, was a 20-year veteran of Vegas, dealing craps since he was 22. Irish immigrant with a photographic memory, he could remember every roll, every bet, every player from weeks ago. Vincent had seen it all: Myros card counters, dice controllers, marking schemes. But what he witnessed in March 1984 was different. Players were making maximum odds, bets on specific shooters, who would then 7 out on cue, transferring massive sums to predetermined winners. Sarah Mitchell, 26, dealt baccarat to Asian high rollers in the international room. Fluent in Mandarin and Cantonese from her Stanford East Asian Studies degree, she often overheard conversations players assumed she couldn't understand. In early March, she heard Hong Kong triads discussing washing operations with Russian contacts, moving dirty money through clean tables. They mentioned specific amounts matching suspicious cash transactions she'd witnessed. The 5 dealers didn't know each other well. Initially, different games, different sections, different breaks, but fate brought them together on March 10, 1984, in the employee cafeteria at 4 a.m., Isabella mentioned the weird betting patterns at her blackjack table. Marcus's eyes widened. He'd seen similar patterns in poker. Patricia chimed in about the roulette manipulation. Vincent added his craps observations. Sarah, initially quiet, then revealed what she'd overheard in Mandarin. They realized they'd stumbled onto something massive. The Golden Palace wasn't just a casino, it was a washing machine for dirty money from international crime syndicates, drug money from Colombia, arms dealing profits from Eastern Europe, human trafficking proceeds from Asia, all being cleaned through carefully orchestrated gambling losses and wins. Marcus, with his accounting background, explained the scheme. Dirty money comes in as cash buy-ins from losing players. Clean money goes out as legitimate winnings to predetermined winners. The casino takes its cut, provides paperwork showing gambling winnings, and everyone's happy. The IRS sees gambling, not crime. The scale was staggering. Based on their observations, they estimated at least $10 million was being laundered weekly. That's $40 million monthly. Nearly $500 million annually. The Golden Palace was the financial hub for international organized crime, operating under the neon lights of Vegas. Isabella suggested going to the police. But Vincent, the veteran, shook his head. You don't understand Vegas. The casinos own the cops. Hell, the sheriff's a regular in our VIP room. Patricia proposed the FBI. But Sarah had overheard names, federal judges, state senators, even a congressman were clients of the money washing service. They needed evidence, undeniable, documented proof, that couldn't be buried or dismissed. Marcus developed a plan, using his forensic accounting knowledge. They would spend 1 week documenting everything, recording conversations, photographing documents, tracking money flow. Then they'd take it directly to the Department of Justice in Washington, bypassing local corruption. Isabella acquired a small tape recorder from Radio Shack, paying cash, giving a fake name. Marcus brought his camera, a tiny Minox B spy camera he'd used for document photography at his accounting firm. Patricia created charts tracking the mathematical patterns of the rigged games. Vincent logged every suspicious transaction in a notebook using a code he'd developed. Sarah translated and documented the foreign language conversations she overheard. For 6 days, they gathered evidence. Isabella recorded the casino manager, Tony the Tiger Torino, discussing special arrangements with VIP hosts. She captured him on tape, saying, "The Colombians need another $3 million cleaned by Friday. Run it through tables 6, 8, and 12. Make sure our people are dealing." Marcus photographed the true books, the ones kept in the floor manager's safe, not the ones submitted to the Gaming Commission. These books showed parallel accounting, official revenues, and the real money flow. One ledger page showed $50 million in consulting fees paid to companies that existed only on paper in the Cayman Islands. Patricia's mathematical analysis proved the games were rigged with near certainty. The probability of the observed patterns occurring naturally was less than 1 in 100 trillion. She documented how electromagnetic devices under certain tables could influence roulette wheels, how dealer shoes were stacked for baccarat, how dice were weighted for craps. Vincent tracked a single $100 bill's serial number through the casino's system. It entered as a buy-in from a known drug dealer, went through 17 different transactions across 6 game tables, and emerged as part of a legitimate payout to a winner who just happened to be the drug dealer's lawyer. The money was cleaned in under 4 hours. Sarah's translations were the most damning. She recorded conversations between Chinese Triad members and Russian Bratva, discussing using the Golden Palace for a massive operation on March 17th, moving $20 million from a heroin deal through the casino in a single night. They mentioned having management cooperation and federal protection. By March 16th, They had enough evidence to destroy the entire operation, but they'd made a mistake. They'd been too careful, too coordinated. Security had noticed 5 dealers suddenly paying attention to things beyond their games. Surveillance supervisor Jimmy the Eyes Marcelli reported to Torino, "We got 5 dealers acting funny. They're documenting shit, boss." Torino ordered increased surveillance. By their March 16th shift, each dealer had a security guard shadowing them. Isabella noticed the tale immediately. She'd grown up in a rough neighborhood and knew when she was being watched. She signaled the others using the subtle hand codes dealers use to communicate across the noisy floor. They met in the bathroom during their 1 a.m. break. The decision was unanimous. They had to complete the evidence gathering tonight, then leave immediately. Vincent had a cousin in the FBI's Los Angeles office. They'd drive there after their shift, deliver everything, and hope for protection. The shift from 10 p.m. March 16th to 4 a.m. March 17th was their most productive and dangerous. Knowing they were being watched, they had to be subtle. Isabella wore the tape recorder in her bra, the microphone hidden in her dealer's vest button. She recorded Torino taking a call from someone he addressed as Senator, discussing moving the full amount through the casino as discussed. Marcus used his photographic memory more than his camera, memorizing document details rather than risking photos. But at 2 a.m., during a dealer change, he managed to photograph the most crucial evidence: a contract between Golden Palace and 16 shell companies, signed by the casino owner, Solomon Solly Goldberg, explicitly outlining the money laundering services and fees. Patricia programmed a roulette wheel to land on 0 5 times in a row, a statistical impossibility that would prove manipulation. She did it at 2:30 a.m., when the floor was nearly empty, with Vincent as her witness. The wheel obeyed her electromagnetic commands perfectly. Vincent watched as $3 million in cash was brought to the craps table in duffel bags at 2:45 a.m. No CTR, currency transaction report, was filed violating federal law. The money was converted to chips, played for exactly 6 rolls with predetermined outcomes, then cashed out as clean gambling winnings. He documented every serial number he could see. Sarah's greatest coup came at 3 a.m. A Japanese Yakuza member, drunk on complimentary champagne, bragged in Japanese about killing a federal prosecutor who'd gotten too close to their operation. He named the prosecutor Tamas Walsh, who'd supposedly died in a car accident 6 months earlier. Sarah recorded every word. At 3:15 a.m., the dealers knew they had to leave. Security was closing in. Isabella saw Jimmy Marcelli speaking into his radio, guards moving to block exits. The 5 dealers made a desperate decision. They'd hide the evidence in the casino, somewhere it would be found if they didn't make it out. They chose the employee break room's drop ceiling. Vincent stood on a chair, lifted a tile, and they deposited everything: tapes, photos, notebooks, charts. Patricia wrote a quick note: "We are 5 dealers who discovered massive money laundering at Golden Palace. If you're reading this and we're missing, we were murdered, evidence enclosed. Contact FBI immediately." At 3:25 a.m., they entered the break room together for an emergency meeting, planning their escape. Isabella had parked her car by the loading dock. They'd leave through the kitchen, avoid the main exits where security was waiting. Marcus calculated they had 5 minutes before the next security round. At 3:30 a.m., the break room door slammed shut. They heard the electronic lock engage from outside. Vincent rushed to the door, pounding on it. The intercom crackled to life. Torino's voice filled the room. "You 5 thought you were smart, but in Vegas, the house always wins." The security footage from the hallway, recovered in 2023, shows what happened next. 6 men in security uniforms entered the break room at 3:32 a.m. At 3:47 a.m., they emerged carrying 5 large laundry carts. The timestamp shows 3:48 a.m., when the carts were loaded into a van with no license plates. The 5 dealers were never seen again. The cover-up was immediate and thorough. At 4 a.m., Torino announced the 5 dealers had quit without notice, taking jobs at a new casino in Atlantic City. Forged resignation letters appeared in their personnel files. Their final paychecks were mailed to fake forwarding addresses. Their cars were moved to the airport long-term parking, suggesting they'd flown out of town. Families who inquired were told the dealers had signed confidentiality agreements, preventing contact for 6 months. When Isabella's mother, Maria Rodriguez, went to the police, she was told adults had the right to disappear. When Marcus's wife filed a missing person report, it was mysteriously lost. Patricia's parents were Korean immigrants who barely spoke English. They were intimidated into silence. Vincent had no family in America. Sarah's sister was told Sarah had met someone and eloped to Mexico. The break room was renovated on March 18th. New carpet, new ceiling tiles, new paint. Workers were told there'd been a water leak. The old materials were trucked to the desert and buried. The Golden Palace continued operations as if nothing had happened, laundering money for another decade before finally being shut down in 1994 for tax irregularities, the only charge that stuck. For 39 years, the truth remained hidden. The families never stopped searching, but found only dead ends. The FBI file on the 5 missing dealers was marked voluntary disappearance. No evidence of foul play. The Golden Palace changed ownership 3 times, each sale washing away more history. Then came 2023. The Golden Palace, long abandoned and scheduled for demolition, needed security during the final asset removal. Frank Martinez, 58, a former Las Vegas Metro detective who'd always been suspicious of the 1984 disappearances, took the job specifically to search for evidence. On November 8, 2023, Martinez was checking the structural integrity of the old employee areas when he noticed something odd. The break room ceiling had been renovated in 1984, but one corner showed signs of older construction. Using a ladder and flashlight, he discovered a small section of original ceiling hidden behind a ventilation duct. There, wrapped in plastic and perfectly preserved in the dry Nevada air, was the evidence the 5 dealers had hidden. 5 tape cassettes, 3 rolls of film, 2 notebooks, and Patricia's mathematical charts. Martinez's hands shook as he realized what he'd found. He immediately called his former partner at the FBI, bypassing local authorities he still didn't trust. The tapes were digitized that very day. Isabella's recordings were crystal clear. Torino discussing murders, money laundering, bribing officials. Marcus's photos, when developed, showed financial documents proving the Golden Palace had laundered over $2 billion between 1975 and 1994. Patricia's mathematical proofs were verified by MIT professors confirming systematic game rigging. Vincent's notebook contained names, dates, amounts, a comprehensive record of criminal transactions. His meticulous documentation included license plates, physical descriptions, and even fingerprints he'd lifted from chips and cards. Sarah's translations revealed the international scope, connecting the Golden Palace to crimes in 17 countries. But the most shocking discovery was on the 5th tape. It was the dealer's final recording, made in the break room at 3:28 a.m., just before they were killed. Isabella's voice, trying to stay calm. "If someone finds this, we're probably dead. We found evidence of money laundering, murder, and corruption at the highest levels. The following people are involved." She listed names that sent shockwaves through law enforcement: 3 senators, 2 federal judges, the Nevada Attorney General, 16 casino executives, and dozens of international criminals. Marcus added financial details. Patricia provided mathematical verification. Vincent listed the crimes he'd witnessed. Sarah translated conversations proving murder conspiracies. The recording's final minutes captured their last moments together. Vincent saying, "We did the right thing." Patricia responding, "Someone will find this. Truth always comes out." Marcus adding, "Take care of our families." Sarah whispering a prayer in Korean. And Isabella, defiant to the end. "We're 5 dealers who stood up to an empire. Remember us?" The sound of the door opening. Torino's voice. "Time's up." A struggle. Sarah screaming. Vincent shouting, "You won't get away with this." Multiple voices, sounds of violence, then sudden silence. The tape continued recording for another 17 minutes, capturing the killers discussing disposal of the bodies. One voice, later identified as Jimmy Marcelli, desert burial, mile marker 47. No one will ever find them. Armed with this evidence, the FBI launched Operation Palace Fall. Using the dealer's evidence and modern investigative techniques, they traced the money laundering network. Many participants were dead, but several key figures were still alive. Solomon Goldberg, 91, living in Florida under an assumed name. Jimmy Marcelli, 78, running a restaurant in Phoenix. 3 former casino executives, all in their 70s, scattered across the country. The arrests on December 15, 2023, made international headlines. Goldberg was charged with 5 counts of murder, hundreds of counts of money laundering, and racketeering. His assets, worth $400 million, were frozen. Marcelli was charged as an accessory to murder. The executives faced conspiracy charges. The search for the dealers' bodies began immediately. Using the mile marker reference from the tape and ground-penetrating radar, FBI teams searched the desert. On December 22, 2023, they found them, 5 bodies, buried together in a single grave, 47 miles northeast of Las Vegas. Dental records confirmed their identities. The forensic examination revealed they'd been killed on March 17, 1984, between 3:30 and 4 a.m. They were still wearing their dealer uniforms. Isabella had her tape recorder. Marcus had his camera. Patricia had a calculator. Vincent had his notebook. Sarah had a translation dictionary. They died as they lived, documenting truth. The families finally had closure. Maria Rodriguez, Isabella's mother, now 89, wept at the news. "For 39 years, I believed my daughter abandoned me. Now I know she died a hero, trying to stop evil men. My Isabella was brave, so brave." Marcus's widow, remarried, but never forgetting, said Marcus always fought for justice, even when it cost him his accounting career. He died doing what he believed in, exposing financial crimes that hurt innocent people. Patricia's elderly parents, speaking through a translator, stated, "Our daughter used her brilliant mind to fight corruption. She honored our family and our Korean values of integrity. We are heartbroken but proud." Vincent's cousin in Ireland, his only living relative, flew to America for the first time. "Vincent wrote me letters about Vegas corruption. I told him to be careful. He said someone had to stand up. He stood up, he fell, but his evidence stands forever." Sarah's sister, Dr. Jennifer Mitchell, now a federal prosecutor inspired by her sister's disappearance, personally handled the case. Sarah spoke 5 languages, but the one she spoke best was truth. These recordings prove she and her colleagues were murdered for refusing to be silent about massive criminal conspiracy. The trials began in March 2024. exactly 40 years after the murders. The prosecution used the dealer's own evidence, preserved perfectly for 4 decades. Every recording, every photograph, every calculation was presented. The dealers testified from beyond the grave through their meticulous documentation. Solomon Goldberg's defense tried to claim the evidence was fabricated, but audio analysis proved the recordings were from 1984. They tried to claim the statute of limitations had expired, but murder has no limitation. They tried to claim Goldberg was too old and senile, but psychological evaluation showed he was competent. The most powerful moment came when the prosecution played the dealer's final recording. The courtroom fell silent as 5 voices, young and determined, listed the crimes they'd discovered. When Vincent's voice said, "We did the right thing," several jurors wept. When the sounds of violence began, the victims' families held each other. When silence fell, the entire courtroom remained frozen. On June 17, 2024, 40 years and 3 months after the murders, the verdict was read. Solomon Goldberg, guilty on all counts, sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences. Jimmy Marcelli, guilty of accessory to murder, sentenced to 30 years. The other defendants received sentences ranging from 10 to 25 years. But the legal victories were just the beginning. The dealer's evidence exposed a network of corruption that reached into the highest levels of government and business. 17 additional arrests were made. 3 senators resigned. 2 judges were impeached. The casino industry faced federal oversight that continues today. The Golden Palace site became a memorial park dedicated to the 5 dealers. 5 bronze statues stand where the casino once operated. Isabella holding cards, Marcus with a ledger, Patricia at a wheel, Vincent with dice, Sarah with a translation book. The inscription reads, 5 dealers who bet their lives on justice and won. The FBI created the Vegas 5 protocol for handling whistleblower evidence in organized crime cases. The dealer's method of hiding evidence in multiple locations is now standard training. Their documentation techniques are taught at Quantico. Their courage is cited in ethics courses. The money recovered from the convicted criminals, over $1 billion with interest and penalties, was distributed to victims of the crimes the money laundering had facilitated. Drug addiction programs, human trafficking survivors, families of murder victims, all benefited from the dealer's sacrifice. Frank Martinez, who found the evidence, received the FBI's highest civilian honor. At the ceremony, he said, "I just lifted a ceiling tile." The real heroes are 5 dealers who knew they were going to die, but made sure the evidence would survive. They traded their lives for truth. That's the ultimate gamble, and they won. The international impact was enormous. Using the Golden Palace money trails, exposed by the dealers, law enforcement agencies worldwide unraveled criminal networks in 43 countries. The Hong Kong triads lost their American money laundering hub. The Russian Bratva's financial structure collapsed. Colombian cartels had to find new ways to clean their money. Las Vegas itself was transformed. The Gaming Commission implemented the 5 dealer rules, requiring multiple oversight levels, mandatory federal reporting, and protection for employee whistleblowers. What had been an open secret Medish casino money laundering, Medish became the industry's most monitored aspect. In 2024, the 40th anniversary of the murders, Las Vegas held its first Integrity Day. On March 17th, casinos closed their gaming floors for 5 minutes at 3:30 a.m., the exact time the 5 dealers were last seen alive. Dealers across the city stood in silence, honoring colleagues who died rather than enable crime. The families established the 5 Dealers Foundation, providing support for whistleblowers in the gaming industry and their families. To date, They've helped expose 17 cases of casino-related crime and protected dozens of employees who came forward with evidence of wrongdoing. Isabella's tape recorder is now in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, still containing the original tape that captured Torino's confession. Marcus's camera is displayed with the photographs that exposed the money laundering. Patricia's mathematical charts are studied in university forensic accounting programs. Vincent's notebook is in the FBI museum. Sarah's translations are used in international law enforcement training. The dealer's story inspired federal legislation. The Casino Transparency Act of 2024, requiring all gaming establishments to maintain records accessible to federal authorities in real time. No longer could casinos hide behind state gaming commissions or claim ignorance of criminal activity. Dr. Michael Chen, professor of criminal justice at UNLV, studied the case extensively. 5 working-class immigrants and Americans discovered one of the largest criminal conspiracies in history. Without law enforcement training, without protection, without resources beyond their own courage, they documented crimes that professional investigators had missed for years. They prove that ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things when they choose justice over safety. The recordings revealed something else. Dealers knew they might die. On the 3rd tape, Marcus is heard saying, "If they find out what we're doing, we're dead." Isabella responds, "Then we make sure the evidence survives even if we don't." The psychological profiles of the 5 dealers, compiled from interviews with friends and family, revealed 5 very different people united by a common trait. They couldn't ignore injustice. Isabella had grown up seeing drug dealers destroy her neighborhood. Marcus had lost his accounting firm for refusing to cook books. Patricia had left MIT rather than work on military projects she opposed. Vincent had been fired from a previous casino for reporting skimming. Sarah had testified against human traffickers who tried to recruit her as a translator. Each had a history of standing up to power. The Golden Palace made a fatal mistake in hiring 5 people with uncompromising integrity. As prosecutor Jennifer Mitchell said in her closing argument, the casino thought they were hiring dealers. They accidentally hired heroes. The discovery of additional evidence in 2024 added another layer to the story. During the Memorial Park construction, workers found a time capsule the dealers had buried a week before their deaths. Inside were personal letters to their families, knowing they might not survive. Isabella wrote to her mother, "Mama, if something happens to me, know I died trying to stop bad men from hurting innocent people. You taught me to be strong. I stayed strong until the end." Marcus wrote to his wife, "My darling, I'm sorry for the secrets these past weeks. We found something terrible, and I have to help stop it. If I don't come home, know that I loved you every day and died trying to make the world more honest." Patricia wrote in Korean to her parents, "You sacrificed everything to bring me to America for a better life. I'm trying to make America better for everyone. Your daughter remains honorable." Vincent wrote to his cousin in Ireland, "Tommy, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. Look after Ma's grave for me. Tell them back home that Vincent O'Brien died fighting corruption, just like Dad fought the British. Different battle, same war." Sarah wrote to her sister, "Jenny, you're going to be an amazing lawyer. If I'm gone, use the law to fight the criminals I couldn't stop. Be better than me. Be stronger than me, but always be as determined as me." These letters, read at the memorial dedication, showed the dealers weren't victims. They were warriors who knew the risks and accepted them. They chose justice over safety, truth over silence, courage over fear. The mathematical probability of what they accomplished, calculated by MIT professors using Patricia's own formulas, was astronomical. 5 people from different backgrounds, working different games, simultaneously discovering different aspects of the same conspiracy, then coming together to document it. Media odds were 1 in 47 billion, yet it happened, proving that sometimes the universe aligns to expose evil. The final piece of evidence, discovered in Goldberg's safe after his conviction, was a ledger showing every person murdered to protect the money laundering operation. 37 names over 20 years, including the 5 dealers. Next to each name was an amount, the cost of the killing. The 5 dealers had the highest price, $1 million total. Even in death, they were valued, though for the wrong reasons. But their true value was immeasurable. They prevented countless future crimes. They saved unknown numbers of future victims. They proved that in a city built on gambling, the biggest gamble is standing up for what's right. And sometimes, against all odds, justice wins. Every March 17th at 3:30 a.m., the Memorial Park's 5 statues are illuminated by spotlights that shine straight up as if the dealers' spirits are ascending. The lights remain on for exactly 17 minutes, the length of time their final recording captured their murder. Then they shut off simultaneously, plunging the park into darkness before sunrise brings new light. The message is clear. Even in the darkest moments, truth survives. 5 dealers proved that. They entered a break room as employees. They entered history as heroes. They lost their lives but won their war against corruption. The last words belong to Frank Martinez, whose discovery brought justice. I've investigated hundreds of cases, but this one haunts me. 5 ordinary people did extraordinary things. They knew death was coming, but kept gathering evidence. They hid proof in a ceiling, trusting someone would eventually find it. That trust took 39 years to be validated, but it was. The house doesn't always win. Sometimes the dealers do. In the city where everything is a gamble, 5 dealers made the ultimate bet, their lives against justice, and 39 years later, they collected their winnings in the only currency that mattered. Truth revealed, criminals punished, and their sacrifice remembered forever. The Golden Palace is gone, but the 5 dealers remain, their courage echoing through every casino where workers now have protection, through every courtroom where their evidence still convicts criminals, through every heart that chooses integrity over easy money. They proved that in Vegas, sometimes the biggest winners are those who refuse to play crooked games. Isabella Rodriguez, Marcus Thompson, Patricia Kim, Vincent O'Brien, and Sarah Mitchell. 5 names carved into history. 5 dealers who changed everything. 5 heroes who reminded the world that courage comes not from the cards you're dealt, but from how you play them when the stakes are life and death. The investigation that followed the discovery of the dealers' bodies revealed even darker truths about the Golden Palace operation. FBI forensic accountants, using Marcus Thompson's documentation as a roadmap, uncovered a financial web that stretched across 6 continents. The casino wasn't just laundering money, it was the central hub of a global criminal financial network that had operated since 1975. Dr. Rebecca Stone, the lead forensic accountant, testified before Congress. These 5 dealers documented something we'd missed for decades. The Golden Palace was essentially a criminal bank, providing full financial services to organized crime, money laundering, currency exchange, even loans between criminal organizations. Marcus Thompson's notes alone revealed transactions totaling $3.7 billion over 9 years. The recordings Isabella had made contained more than just evidence of money laundering. On tape 4, discovered to have additional content when digitally enhanced in 2024, Torino could be heard discussing previous murders. Remember what we did to that gaming commissioner in '79. Same thing happens to anyone who threatens our operation. This led to the reopening of 17 cold cases in Nevada, all suspicious deaths previously ruled accidents or suicides. Patricia Kim's mathematical analysis became a textbook case in forensic statistics. Professor David Chen at MIT, who verified her work, stated, "This woman, working alone with pencil and paper in 1984, created probability models that we now use computer algorithms to generate. She proved with mathematical certainty that the games were rigged. Her calculation that legitimate play would produce the observed patterns only once in 10 circumflex 47 attempts. That's more than the number of atoms in the observable universe," was brilliantly elegant. The investigation revealed that Patricia had hidden additional evidence that wasn't found with the main cache. Using her mathematical mind, she'd encoded information in what appeared to be routine dealer reports. When FBI cryptographers analyzed her work schedules and tip reports from 1984, they found she'd created a cipher. Each number in her reports corresponded to criminal transactions she'd witnessed. Decoded, these reports revealed an additional 237 money laundering incidents the other dealers hadn't seen. Vincent O'Brien's notebook contained something extraordinary. He'd been creating a facial recognition system using hand-drawn sketches. The 20-year veteran had drawn detailed portraits of every suspicious player, noting distinguishing features, scars, tattoos. When these sketches were run through modern facial recognition software in 2024, they identified 43 individuals, including 7 on the FBI's most wanted list, and 3 believed to have died years ago. His notebook also contained license plates, which he'd memorized from the valet parking area during his breaks. These plates, when traced, revealed a network of shell companies, all registered to the same address, Niche P.O. Box in Delaware, that served as the official address for 1,847 different corporations, all linked to money laundering operations. Sarah Mitchell's linguistic skills had captured something even more valuable. She'd recorded conversations in 7 languages: English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, Korean, Russian, and Spanish. But hidden in her translations were margin notes in an 8th language, Mitraishan Phi, Vietnamese, which she'd been secretly studying. These notes contained her real observations about the speakers, including one that would crack the case wide open. The man calling himself Mr. Tanaka is actually Korean, accent from Busan, likely North Korean agent based on dialectical markers. This observation led to the discovery that the Golden Palace had been laundering money, not just for criminal organizations, but for hostile foreign governments. North Korean agents were using the casino to fund covert operations in the United States. The implications were staggering. Najin, the 5 dealers, had uncovered not just organized crime, but international espionage and potential terrorism financing. The medical examiner's report, initially sealed for national security reasons, was released in redacted form in 2024. It revealed that the dealers had been murdered in the break room, exactly as the recording suggested. But there was more. They'd fought back harder than initially known. Isabella had managed to scratch one attacker deeply enough to get DNA under her fingernails. This DNA, preserved for 39 years, matched Jimmy Marcelli, providing physical evidence linking him to the murders. Marcus had bitten his attacker, leaving teeth marks on a preserved piece of clothing found with his body. Patricia had used her roulette stick as a weapon, breaking it in the struggle. Vincent had landed several punches, evident from his bruised knuckles and blood on his shirt that wasn't his own. Sarah had used her martial arts training. You should practice taekwondo since childhood, managing to break one attacker's nose based on blood spatter patterns. They hadn't gone quietly. 5 casino dealers, facing multiple armed attackers, had fought with everything they had. The break room, when luminol tested in 2024, lit up like a constellation, Midas blood evidence everywhere, showing a fierce final battle. The autopsy reports also revealed something heartbreaking. Sarah Mitchell had been 2 months pregnant, a fact she'd apparently shared with no one. Her boyfriend, David Park, now 67, broke down when informed she was going to tell me after her shift that night. She'd bought a baby outfit, left it on my pillow with a note saying, "Daddy, I found it when I got home from my own graveyard shift. I never knew if she'd left me or something had happened. Now I know we lost, not just Sarah, but our child." The investigation expanded when Frank Martinez made another discovery. While the break room had been renovated, the adjacent storage room hadn't been touched since 1984. Hidden behind stacked boxes of old casino chips, he found a duffel bag with V. O'Brien stenciled on it. Inside was $50,000 in cash and a note in Vincent's handwriting. "If something happens to us, use this to find the truth." Vincent had been planning for the worst. The serial numbers on the bills, when traced, led to a specific Federal Reserve batch that had been stolen in a 1983 armored car robbery. This connected the Golden Palace to yet another crime and led to solving a cold case that had left 2 guards dead. The money also contained something else. Invisible ink markings that Vincent had applied, visible only under UV light. These markings spelled out names and dates, a backup record of criminal visitors to the casino. Vincent had literally turned money into evidence, knowing cash would be preserved even if papers were destroyed. The trial of Solomon Goldberg became the most watched legal proceeding in Nevada history. Every major news outlet covered it. The prosecution, led by Jennifer Mitchell, Sarah's sister, presented 1,847 pieces of evidence, 400 hours of audio, and testimony from 200 witnesses. But the most powerful evidence remained the dealer's own documentation. When Marcus Thompson's photographs were displayed, showing the true books of the Golden Palace, the prosecution's response was devastating. They brought in the original ledgers, recovered from Goldberg's personal safe, matching Marcus's photos exactly. The former accountant had been so precise that his photographs could be overlaid on the originals with perfect alignment. Isabella's recordings were played in full. Her clear voice, sometimes joking with customers, sometimes seriously documenting crimes, humanized her beyond just a victim. When the tape played her saying, "I'm Isabella Rodriguez, and I'm recording this because someone needs to know the truth," the courtroom fell silent. When her final recording played, capturing her death, 3 jurors requested a recess. Patricia's mathematical proofs were presented by Professor Chen himself. Using modern computer simulations, he showed the jury exactly how the games had been rigged. The probability displays, showing the astronomical odds against the patterns being natural. One juror later said, "When I saw those numbers, I understood, mighty, this wasn't gambling. It was theft disguised as gambling." Vincent's facial sketches were presented alongside photographs of the actual criminals, showing his incredible accuracy. His drawing of Solomon Goldberg, done from memory after seeing him once, was so precise that it included a small scar on Goldberg's left earlobe that wasn't visible in any photographs from 1984. When asked how this was possible, a memory expert testified that some people have eidetic memory for faces, and Vincent was one of them. Sarah's translations were presented by a team of linguists who verified not just her accuracy, but her ability to detect subtle linguistic clues. Her notation that certain speakers were using code words was proven correct when those same codes were found in seized documents. Her identification of the North Korean agent led to his arrest in 2024. He'd been living in Las Vegas under the same false identity for 40 years. The defense case crumbled when their star witness, former Golden Palace security guard Thomas Fleming, changed his testimony mid-trial, granted immunity, He revealed Goldberg ordered us to kill those dealers. He said they knew too much. I refused to participate, but I saw them take the bodies out. I've lived with this guilt for 39 years. Those kids were just trying to do the right thing. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. When they returned, the foreman read the verdict with tears in his eyes. Guilty on all counts. As each dealer's name was read with the corresponding murder charge, their families in the gallery held photographs of their lost loved ones. When the final guilty verdict was read, Isabella's mother stood and said clearly, "Gracias, mi amor." Justice at last. The sentencing hearing brought more revelations. Goldberg, facing life without parole, tried to make a deal. He offered to reveal where other bodies were buried in exchange for a reduced sentence. The judge's response was scathing. "Mr. Goldberg, you murdered 5 young people whose only crime was honesty. You ran a criminal empire that destroyed countless lives. You will die in prison, and the only deal you'll get is a guarantee that your crimes will be remembered forever." The impact of the case rippled through the casino industry worldwide. Macau implemented new oversight measures. Monaco changed its banking laws. Native American casinos in the United States adopted the 5-dealer protocols, protection measures for employees who report suspicious activity. The global gambling industry, worth $500 billion annually, was forced to confront its vulnerability to money laundering. In 2024, the families of the 5 dealers were invited to the White House, where the president signed the Casino Crime Prevention Act, inspired by their sacrifice. The act required federal oversight of all gambling establishments, mandatory reporting of suspicious activities, and witness protection for casino employees. Isabella's mother, too frail to travel, sent a message read at the ceremony, "My daughter and her friends changed America from their grave. That's the power of truth." The financial settlements were substantial. The families sued the Golden Palace's insurance companies, its parent corporations, the estates of deceased conspirators. The total settlement exceeded $500 million, which the families used to establish the 5 Dealers Justice Foundation. The foundation has since funded investigations into casino crimes worldwide, resulting in 200 convictions and the recovery of $2 billion in laundered money. But perhaps the most significant outcome was the change in how society views service workers. The 5 dealers proved that the people serving drinks, dealing cards, and cleaning rooms see everything. They're not invisible, neither witnesses. The case led to new respect for casino workers, with many establishments implementing employee feedback systems and anonymous reporting mechanisms. Dr. Janet Williams, a sociologist who studied the case, observed 5 working-class individuals, an immigrant from El Paso, a failed accountant, a college dropout, an Irish immigrant, and a young Asian American woman, accomplished what the FBI, DEA, and Gaming Commission couldn't. They proved that proximity to crime doesn't require participation. You can deal cards in a corrupt casino and still maintain your integrity. The discovery of additional evidence continued. In 2024, during renovation of Isabella's childhood home in El Paso, workers found a hidden journal. She'd been documenting suspicious activities at the Golden Palace for 6 months before the others joined her investigation. Her first entry, dated September 1983, read, "Something's wrong at this casino. I'm going to figure out what." Her last entry, March 16, 1984, "Tomorrow we finish gathering evidence. I'm scared but ready. Papa always said stand up to bullies. These are the biggest bullies I've ever seen." Marcus Thompson's widow discovered his backup files in 2024, hidden in his home computer, Commodore 64. He'd modified himself. The files, stored on floppy disks labeled as video games, contained detailed financial analysis of the Golden Palace's money laundering. His work was so thorough that the IRS used it to go after 40 years of back taxes, collecting an additional $300 million from various conspirators. Patricia Kim's parents, going through her old belongings, when analyzed, these equations proved she'd been working on a universal formula for detecting rigged games, something that could be applied to any casino game to determine if outcomes were being manipulated. Her formula is now used by gaming commissions worldwide. Vincent O'Brien's cousin in Ireland received a package in 2024, mailed from Las Vegas with no return address. Inside was Vincent's rosary, recovered from his body, and a note, "Your cousin died a hero. He saved more lives than he ever knew." The package was traced to a retired FBI agent who'd worked the case and wanted the family to have closure. Sarah Mitchell's linguistic notebooks, found in her sister Jennifer's attic, revealed she'd been creating a dictionary of gambling crime terminology in multiple languages. This dictionary, published posthumously, became the standard reference for international gaming crime investigation. Every term was accompanied by Sarah's handwritten notes explaining context and usage. The psychological impact on Las Vegas was profound. The city built on secrets had its biggest secret exposed. The myth of the honest casino, where the house wins through mathematics alone, was shattered. A 2024 survey found that 78% of casino employees now report suspicious activities, compared to less than 5% in 1984. The five dealers had created a culture of vigilance. The Golden Palace site, after serving as a memorial park, became home to the International Gaming Integrity Institute in 2025. The institute trains casino employees worldwide in identifying and reporting financial crimes. The building's entrance features a massive mural of the five dealers, painted by a local artist who used Isabella's mother, Marcus's widow, Patricia's parents, Vincent's cousin, and Sarah's sister as models for angels watching over them. Every graduate of the institute receives a chip not for gambling, but as a reminder. One side shows the five dealers' faces, the other side bears their motto, derived from Vincent's notebook, "Truth is the only bet that always pays off." The ongoing investigation revealed the five dealers had prevented an even greater catastrophe. Documents found in 2024 showed the criminal network was planning to expand operations to Atlantic City, Reno, and Native American casinos. The dealers' exposure of the Golden Palace operation had scared them into abandoning these plans. By one estimate, their sacrifice prevented $10 billion in additional money laundering and saved hundreds of potential victims. The dealers' families found different ways to honor their memories. Isabella's family established a scholarship for Hispanic women entering law enforcement. Marcus's widow funded forensic accounting programs at universities. Patricia's parents created a mathematics competition for high school students, with problems based on their daughter's work. Vincent's cousin brought his story back to Ireland, where it inspired new anti-corruption laws. Sarah's sister ensured her story was included in every legal ethics course in America. The five dealers' story became required study in criminal justice programs. Their evidence-gathering techniques were analyzed and improved upon. The FBI created the Vegas 5 Protocol, the systematic approach to documenting financial crimes based on their methods. Every agent learns Isabella's recording techniques, Marcus's photographic documentation, Patricia's mathematical analysis, Vincent's observation skills, and Sarah's linguistic awareness. In popular culture, their story inspired films, books, and documentaries. But the families insisted on one condition: the dealers had to be portrayed as they were ordinary people who made an extraordinary choice. Not action heroes, not trained investigators, just five casino workers who saw wrong and decided to make it right. The 40th anniversary commemoration in 2024 drew thousands to Las Vegas. Casino workers from around the world attended, many wearing pins with 5D representing the 5 dealers. At exactly 3:30 a.m. on March 17th, every casino in Las Vegas observed a moment of silence. For the first time in the city's history, the sounds of slots, chips, and cards stopped completely. In that silence, the 5 dealers' sacrifice was remembered. The keynote speaker was Maria Rodriguez, Isabella's mother, now 90 but still fierce. "My daughter dealt cards for a living, but her final hand was justice. She went all in with her life as the bet. 39 years later, she won. They all won. And because they won, we all won." The scientific analysis of the case continued yielding insights. Forensic psychologists studied the group dynamic that allowed 5 strangers to trust each other so completely. Their conclusion: shared moral courage creates instant bonds stronger than years of friendship. The 5 dealers had recognized in each other the same unwillingness to ignore injustice. Economists calculated the financial impact of the dealers' sacrifice. By exposing the money laundering network, they'd prevented an estimated $50 billion in criminal transactions over 4 decades. Drug prices increased due to lack of laundering facilities. Arms dealers couldn't move money. Human traffickers lost their financial hub. 5 dealers had struck a blow against global crime that no military operation had achieved. The legal precedents set by the case transformed American justice. The dealer's evidence rule established that properly documented evidence of crimes, even if obtained by civilians, was admissible in court. The Vegas 5 exception to statute of limitations meant that murders committed to cover up financial crimes had no time limit for prosecution. The Mitchell-Rodriguez Act provided automatic witness protection for service industry workers reporting crimes. In 2025, the UN recognized the 5 dealers posthumously with the International Justice Award. The citation read, "For extraordinary courage in documenting crimes against humanity, for sacrificing their lives to protect unknown future victims, and for proving that ordinary citizens are the strongest offense against organized evil." The award was accepted by the 5 families together. They stood on stage, holding photographs of their lost loved ones, as the Secretary General read the names: Isabella Rodriguez, whose recordings exposed an empire of crime; Marcus Thompson, whose financial analysis revolutionized forensic accounting; Patricia Kim, whose mathematics proved that truth can be calculated; Vincent O'Brien, whose observations saw what trained investigators missed; Sarah Mitchell, whose linguistic skills revealed international conspiracy. But the most moving moment came when 5 young casino dealers, 1 Hispanic woman, 1 black man, 1 Korean woman, 1 Irish man, and 1 Asian American woman, walked onto stage wearing vintage 1984 Golden Palace uniforms. They represented not just the 5 who died, but all the dealers worldwide who now had protection because of that sacrifice. Each read a portion of the final recording the 5 dealers had made. When they reached Vincent's words, "We did the right thing," the entire assembly rose in a standing ovation that lasted 17 minutes, 1 minute for each minute of the recording that captured the dealers' murder and ensured their killers would face justice. The scientific study of the evidence continued producing breakthroughs. Patricia's mathematical models were adapted for cryptocurrency crime detection. Vincent's observation techniques became standard training for security personnel. Isabella's recording methods inspired new surveillance technologies. Marcus's financial tracking systems were digitized and automated. Sarah's linguistic analysis created new fields in criminal translation studies. The dealer's story reached beyond crime and justice. Business schools taught the case as an example of ethical absolutism. The dealers had no gray area in their morality. Philosophy departments used it to explore the trolley problem. The dealers had chosen to sacrifice themselves to save unknown future victims. Psychology courses examined the group dynamics that allowed 5 individuals to maintain solidarity, despite extreme danger. Religious organizations embraced the dealer's story as modern martyrdom. Pope Francis mentioned them in an encyclical about moral courage. The Dalai Lama cited their sacrifice as an example of compassion in action. Islamic scholars praised their commitment to justice. Rabbi David Cohen wrote, "5 dealers at a casino became more holy than many who preach in temples." The families found comfort in these recognitions, but remained focused on practical outcomes. They successfully lobbied for changes in how missing persons cases were investigated. The 84-hour rule, named for 1984 miss, required full federal investigation if 5 or more people disappeared from the same location. The Rodriguez alert mandated immediate family notification if casino employees failed to appear for consecutive shifts. By 2025, the impact was measurable. Casino crime had decreased by 60%. Money laundering through gambling had dropped by 75%. Employee reporting of suspicious activity had increased by 1,200%. The 5 dealers had achieved more in death than most achieve in life. It made an entire industry honest.